You are listening to True Crime Twins, a true crime podcast hosted by Chloe and Melina Canter. True Crime Twins is distributed by Glassbox Media and is part of the Crawlspace media family. Welcome back to True Crime Twins, where we use our occupational and academic backgrounds in criminology and medicine to bring you crime stories each week. I'm Chloe, here with Melina to bring you not another week of true crime. This week, we're doing something a bit more lighthearted. We call it a palate cleanser. I am joined by Kelli Brink, who hosts the TrueCrimeiRL podcast. Wonderful show. I highly recommend it. You can find it anywhere you listen to podcasts. Kelli and I talk about love, romance, the dating game, being vulnerable, the show Love on the Spectrum, which we both very much enjoyed. And we also talk about autism spectrum disorder. So if you want to hear two lady true crime podcasters talk about love and attempts to find love and the show Love on the Spectrum, this episode is for you. If you don't want to do that, no hard feelings. Might I suggest you go back into the True Crime Twins catalog and listen to any of our fascinating episodes about unsolved murders, disappearances, and other crimes. This episode was originally aired on True Crime IRL. The first 10 minutes are Kelli asking me about my story and my background. So if you already are familiar with me and totally don't care at this point and just want to get to the content, I would skip to around the 10-minute mark. Please enjoy this conversation with me and Kelli Brink.
Melina and you do True Crime Twins. Why? That's hard for me to say for some reason. True Crime
Twins.
It? You guys do that podcast together. Now, Melina's, I feel like she's a little quieter. She's a little more shy than you. Is that?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, very good. Yes. Ever since we were kids, if we had to talk to adults, she would literally go behind me.
Oh.
And I was the one that talked to the adults. So yeah, she's very shy. I'm not. She's gotten more outgoing with time.
And the podcast and stuff probably. Maybe
for
helped.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. People can grow out of it, but I think our default roles are me kind of being the extroverted and her being the more introverted, but it's so amazing to work together, and we both have different academic backgrounds and different things to offer, and we have great rapport because we're twins. So
yeah, that's awesome. Oh my gosh, that's so cool. Well, what is your background? So I first heard you back before I ever had a podcast. I listened to Crawlspace and Missing Maura Murray and stuff. So I heard you on Tim and Lance's show for the first time, and I was like, I like this girl. I liked you right away. And so I'm like kind of fangirling over you, Chloe, a little bit. But like, what is your background, like education and stuff?
Sure. And just so you know, the feeling's mutual. Big fan of yours. I was so excited to meet you. I was like, you are so beautiful.
Oh my God. No, you are.
Oh, thank you so much. But yeah, so the feeling's mutual. So happy that we're doing this, and hopefully we can do more of these. I would love that
too. Because I do all the collabs with like guys and stuff. I need a chick. I need a girl to
bring
be
in
like
some of the estrogen in the room, right?
Yes.
So yes, would love to do that. But yeah, my background is in psychology and criminal justice. I got my bachelor's degree in psychology, worked in a psychiatric hospital for a little while, and then I kind of went further into the human services field, working in social services in a more supervisory role. So I've seen things from different standpoints. And then I finished my master's degree in criminal justice pretty recently, actually. And
congrats. That's
thank
exciting.
You.
Good job.
Thank you so much. It was a really, really meaningful accomplishment for me.
That's awesome.
I met Tim and Lance because I was a huge fan of their show, Missing Maura Murray. It was
who isn't?
I know. So many people say this was like my first exposure to true crime media. And for me, it was like Serial and then Tim and Lance. Like they were very early into that interest being activated in me. But I was pretty much obsessed with podcasts as soon as I was exposed, and just loved loved the idea of them, and I could see how they were growing, and interest in them was so intense. And they had this call to action one day saying, members of the community, if you think you have anything that you could possibly offer, like, please reach out to us. And I was so into, and still am into, Maura Murray's disappearance. I had like a file on my computer.
Oh my gosh.
I was in college when this
armchair sleuth.
I was like seriously like an amateur sleuth. So I was in college at the time, but like on the side, like when I was home, I would, just go on my computer and try to find out what I could. And, this isn't necessarily the most advised thing. And it's probably not something I would do anymore, except for if it were related to my podcast. But, I would reach out to people, and some people would even talk to me, which was pretty cool about the case. So I said, you know what, I shouldn't keep all of this to myself. It was never my intention, but they seemed so inaccessible to me until that moment. So I emailed them, and I was like, they're never going to answer. And they didn't answer for a while, but then eventually they did, and asked to meet up with me, wanted to talk about the case more after we had some back and forth. And when I first emailed them, I was living in DC. Then I moved up to Western Massachusetts to attend grad school, and they are local to Massachusetts too. So when they finally responded to me, I'd already lived up there. So
gosh.
Perfect. So perfect. I can actually meet them when I wouldn't have been able to do so before. And I was working at the psychiatric hospital, and this is like my favorite. This coworker of mine asked, hey, could you cover this shift for me on this day? And that was the day that I was scheduled to meet Tim and Lance for the first time at a Starbucks. And I was like, I would love to, but all of my dreams are about to come true.
That is amazing. Yeah. You remember that moment.
It was and
the rest is history.
Can't argue with that,
Yeah. Oh my God. So you guys met, you went on their show, and kind of like after that you started True Crime Twins with your sister then? Is that?
Yeah. The rest was history. I for a while was on Crawlspace with them pretty regularly, mostly in regards to the disappearance of Brianna Maitland, the 17-year-old who went missing after clocking out of her shift in Montgomery, Vermont. Her car was found abandoned, backed into an abandoned farmhouse just a mile and a half down the road. That case is so intertwined with Maura Murray's case. So I was very interested. So when I had that opportunity to do that with them, of course, I jumped right in. And then over time, they pitched True Crime Twins to me and Melina, because at that point they had gotten to know my sister too. We're so close. So I would bring her along.
Oh, yeah. And she was super into true crime stuff too, right along with you.
Always. Yeah.
Perfect.
So we just jumped right in, and it's been an amazing experience. It's like my passion. So being able to cover these cases and be a voice, be an advocate. I think the most meaningful memories I have during this journey are making these authentic, meaningful connections with these family members, with secondary victims who want to do anything possible to get the word out, and having a channel and a medium to do that is a true blessing. So I love it.
Yeah. Well, I love your show, and I love the way you talk too. I just have you have such a cute voice. I love it.
Oh, thank you so much. I love your show too.
Well, thanks. But we I have a podcast too, but we're not talking about that. Today, we're just like, we're so needing a palate cleanser, kind of, right? I mean, as a true crime podcaster, you eat, sleep, and breathe these depressing, sad stories. It's and you take them to heart. There's a lot of commercials for like BetterHelp and things like that. There's a reason why we all like do those commercials, because we need a little therapy after the things we talk about. But one show that we bonded over outside of true crime is Love on the Spectrum. Like, we both were kind of talking about it on Facebook, and we both love that show. I mean, it has made me, it's restored my faith in humanity, really, I think. Yeah.
I saw your posts about it on social media, and I was immediately so excited, because I was like, thank goodness I have someone to talk about this with, because it was as intense of an experience for me as it sounds like it was for you.
Yeah.
Watching it literally the entire time I had like my hands clutched over my heart, and I was oh my gosh, like I feel like it really helped change my perspective on a lot of things, and being able to talk about that with someone who had a similar experience with it. And we're coming from different places, but we both are moms, and I think that has, because I really watched the parents a lot on that show too.
Same.
And how they react to things. And it was so touching. I think, just speaking from my own experience, I've been so jaded regarding the dating world, and talking about love and dating is not something I'm used to doing on a podcast, so it's like kind of an exciting new challenge, but
taking us out of our comfort zones. We can talk about murder and stuff all day long, but get right in here and it's like not so comfortable.
I know, it's like all the attention is on a different place, but I really was jaded, and I just feel like I learned so much from the stories of the different couples and the different dates that I saw, and just what is so clear to this cast that should be pretty obvious to everybody, and I think would make everybody's life easier and better and happier and more filled with love. But we have all of these things getting in our way. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, we do. And they're able to, like, I say they, okay, so the people on this show, they're all like varying degrees of being on the spectrum, from Asperger's to autism, some very mild, some a little more severe case of that, but they are able to like cut through the bullshit is what I feel like. And that's, sometimes I just wish I could do that when they're on dates. They don't hide behind this veil of, oh, well, this is how I'm supposed to be, so I'm going to fake this. I'm going to mask my real feelings and whatever. So the honesty is what really strikes me in that show,
Agreed. I feel that dishonesty, or at least, and that can be in the varying degrees. Obviously, you don't want to start a relationship off on being dishonest, but people can be misleading on how they feel because they feel it makes them more attractive. For example, I was always taught, ever since I started to become interested in boys, don't text them first. Let them text you. Wait a few days so you don't look desperate. Nothing is less attractive than being desperate. And of course, when you're like, 12 years old and you have a crush on a guy, and all you want to do is text them, it's like, hey, it's like a behavioral training. And I see the reasoning behind it to a point, because you don't want to, it's not an attractive quality to be desperate, but but acting that way does require a certain misleading of your feelings.
Totally.
And that's become very normative, at least for me. And I feel that people on the other side of it too also feel the need to do that. They feel the need to look like they don't care.
Exactly. Well, it's that classic playing hard to get, and it is a lie. If you come right down to you're lying about your feelings. It's kind of like all a game. Really, when you're doing, it's a game, and it's like you're playing certain cards, you're moving the pawns in a chess game just the right way. It's a subtle little game, I guess.
Flirting is chess.
Yeah. Yes.
It is.
Yeah, it totally is. But you don't want to seem desperate. You don't want to seem, like, oh, I like them so much, but I can't let them know because then I'm less attractive, I guess, or to them. So yeah, it's sad, really.
It is.
And I do that. Yeah.
I've done it forever, ever since I started having an interest. And then when I watch the show and I see this adorable couple who actually didn't end up working out, spoiler alert, but Danny and Solomon.
Oh, yes.
That's Danny is this amazing,
so awesome.
Electric girl, 26 years old, living in Los Angeles with her aunt and uncle. She is extremely dedicated to animation. She's extremely ambitious. Like she kept talking about wanting a partnership with someone that she could eventually start a business with. Very imperious young woman. And Solomon is this soulful poet, very romantic, and they have this amazingly adorable first date. They're walking each other out, and Solomon goes, I can't wait to tell my mom and dad about this.
I know.
Made me giggle because
I know.
if I have a really good date, the first person I want to tell is, Melina, my twin.
Yeah.
But I would never say that because it would make me look too eager. But when I was watching
vulnerable.
Very vulnerable.
Yeah. It's hard for people to bring themselves down and become vulnerable because
I just want to look cool.
Yeah. And you might get hurt if you're vulnerable too.
Right. But that doesn't seem to even be a real concern. No, they
not at all.
Themselves out there without that.
That's what I love.
Armor.
Yeah. Yeah. Even before that moment, Chloe, when they were at the table talking, she just blurts out and you can just feel it through the TV screen because she's moving and she's like, I'm in love with you. She just said that. And I'm like, oh my God. I've had like some first dates that have been good, not very many, but a couple where I was like, I just felt that inside and I wanted to say that, but never would I have said that, because I was holding back, but I was just wanting to say, oh my God, you're perfect. but I loved seeing that on the screen, how she was able to just like go with those emotions and just put them out there.
All of those butterflies, that enthusiasm, all of the optimism that you have on a first date that we're experiencing internally and we're trying so hard to suppress filter so it doesn't come out of your mouth. Yeah. They just say it. And I think that was a huge reason why it was so heartwarming because all of those feelings that are so like intoxicating, they're able to just express it and be vulnerable and let us experience it too. And it was really beautiful.
It was so beautiful. I did definitely cry during that scene just because I was like, yes, because they're saying the things and doing the things that we all feel. We just mask them and they either, don't have don't really have the ability to mask in that way. They are not kind of able to do that, I guess,
I think a lot of it has to do with social conventions, which people who are neurotypical can better grasp. So a part of, the social skills, the being conventionally socially graceful, a part of that is dating etiquette. And a part of that is playing hard to get, putting up walls so that you don't get hurt. And that I don't think is as easy to understand and to adapt to for people who are on the spectrum.
Right.
And seeing them in dating situations when I'm sure because they aren't neurotypical, it might be harder for them to get a date. They might be more prone to rejection, especially from neurotypical people that aren't willing to try to understand them or just get out of their own comfort zone and think a little bit differently to see how much they appreciate the experience and how vulnerable they are. But I never watched them and thought, oh, they're so desperate.
No, God, no.
They're so eager, which is what we're so afraid of coming off as.
Right.
I never felt that about them. I thought that they were so brave and courageous and able to forage authentic connections better than me or other other people who may be more neurotypical.
Yes. And then another thing I loved was the way Danny's brain works. Yes, she had these sudden feelings for Solomon and everything, but after she stepped away from the situation a little bit, she was able to like kind of make a pro and con list in a way, like, well, he checks this box, but not this. And like, she knew what she wanted. She was not willing to settle. And she matter-of-factly was like, well, you know what? He's great. And I feel this way, but he's not actually the person that I want to be with. He doesn't have all the qualities and I don't want to settle for less than the perfect person for me. And she made that tough decision, spoiler alert, to call him and say, maybe we'll just be friends. I was so proud of her because I've settled so many times and been like, well, he's great in this way, but he doesn't check this box, but and I was just so proud of her as a woman. And she was so like strong and she's like, gonna move on.
There's an incredible maturity to that, especially because she's still in her mid-20s.
Yes.
Once you are overcome with those romantic feelings, which she expressed on the first date, like we discussed, you're so hot, like I'm in love with you.
Yeah.
She obviously had those feelings and they had that chemistry. And once that emerges, it's
all bets are
pretty
off.
hard.
Yeah.
It's pretty hard to take a step back and say, well, this is what I originally wanted.
Mm-hmm.
This is the kind of person, this is the kind of aspirations they would have. That foundational stuff, it's hard to think and look at that clearly and without bias once you have that chemistry.
Totally.
She did it no problem.
She did. And I mean, like, she was a little conflicted, and she got a little emotional, but it was the right decision for her, and she did it, and she really inspired me. And so yeah,
my heart broke for Solomon, though.
I know, mine too, because he was like, but why? And I don't know, he was kind of sad, so that was sad.
He seemed heartbroken, which is that's a part of life. We all have had our heart broken, but it doesn't make it any easier to watch that happen to a very nice person. And now a quick word from our sponsors. Melina, when I had my daughter, I was 24 years old. So when I started even thinking about having kids, I was 23 years old. I was on birth control since I was 16. I got off of it for a week, and my daughter Ava was conceived. Easy peasy. That's the case when you're 23. Now I'm about to be 28 years old. I might want more kids someday. And it turns out that your fertility situation can change rapidly the closer you get to 30, and then even more so after you turn 30. And once you turn 35, your pregnancy is considered a geriatric pregnancy. These are all things that I never had to think about at age 23, but now I need to consider now at 28. This is where amazing companies like Modern Fertility come in. They are able, from just a few drops of blood, to tell you your fertility situation to help you prepare for your future and your family. The traditional guidance with fertility has been just wait and see. But now we have tools to help us plan for and track everything in our lives: wellness, finances, careers, school. So why is fertility still a wait and see? That's why Modern Fertility was created. It's an easy and affordable way to test your fertility hormones at home with a simple finger prick. Mail it in with a prepaid label, and you'll get your personalized results within 10 days. This helps you get insight into your hormone levels, your ovarian reserve, aka how many eggs you have compared to other women your age, and other important fertility factors. The results go deep into what every hormone means, and you can also download the results to review with your doctor for the next steps. Traditional testing can cost over $1,000, but Modern Fertility gets you the same info at a fraction of the price. Also, if you have an HSA or FSA, you can put those dollars toward Modern Fertility. If you want kids today, or maybe one day in the future, clinically sound info about your body can help you make the decision that's right for you. Right now, Modern Fertility is offering our listeners $30 off for the test when you go to modernfertility.com/TCTwins30. That means your test will cost $169 instead of the hundreds or thousands it could cost at a doctor's office. Get $30 off your fertility test when you go to modernfertility.com/TCTwins30. Again, that's modernfertility.com/TCTwins30 for $30 off your fertility test. Thanks for listening to our sponsors. Now back to the show.
The parents in the show are very involved in the show, which I love. And it's hard for them, I can imagine, too. Their kids, most of them, they say, no, I've never been on a date, or a lot of them have never been on a date, but they have this yearning for love. And the parents want that. A lot of the parents were probably thinking, I don't know if that's ever going to be in the cards for my child. You never know. I know, I'm sure a lot of them felt that way. So my son is on the spectrum, very, very mildly on the spectrum. He's just got some quirks that make him unique and make him stand out and stuff. But when he was younger, and even today, sometimes I'm like, I wonder what kind of partner he will find, or if the girl or boy, man or woman that he ends up with, if they're going to be, accepting of his quirks, and how dating will be for him, or if he'll date. I don't know these things. But so watching that journey of the parents, I could relate a lot to that. And I could relate to these young people too, going on their first date. Like I just imagine Adam, my son, he's only 10 right now, but one day, he wants love. He always says he wants to get married and have 10 kids. So I think, it's going to be interesting how things unfold, but I really liked watching the dynamic between the parents and the kids.
My daughter's 2, and I haven't gone to that place yet in my mind, like even imagining her dating, just because it's so far away.
Yeah.
Your son could be starting to show interest in dating soon at 10, which is crazy. And I don't want to, I really don't want to bum you out, but it makes sense that you are thinking about what it might be like, especially because he's in a place where he's talking about wanting to get married and have kids someday. My own mom, for example, and we're both neurotypical, but even with that dynamic, I'm in my late 20s, and I mentioned to her, like, just probably like a week or so ago, that I was talking to a nice guy. And honestly, on a separate note, me putting myself out there to talk to a nice guy has pretty much like everything to do with me watching this show. Like,
oh my gosh, really?
I was so closed off. I was like, I'm not even interested. And I was watching the show and I was like, you know what? Maybe I'll put myself out there again.
That's amazing.
I know.
I love that. I love that. I'm so glad.
I was telling my mom about him, and the excitement that she had was so, in my opinion, like an overreaction for, I just started talking to this person. She's like, oh, is he falling for you? Like, you're falling for him? I'm like, chill. What the hell are you talking about? Like, whoa.
Nobody's falling for anyone yet. We're just talking.
It's like too intense. Like, these expectations are too much. But it reminded me a little bit of the parents on the show. And it's not that that's not all they care about. It's not their primary focus, but they want to see their kids be happy and find love and to have that experience. And like I said, I personally haven't gotten to that place yet with my daughter because of her age, but I'm sure I will. And I loved watching the parents. For example, Abby, young woman who also lives in Los Angeles and is really into Disney and animals.
She was so fun. Their dates were just adorable. Yeah, they had so much fun.
They both knew so clearly what was important to them. And when they had animals in common and talking about wanting to go on an African safari and going to zoos on their dates, that's what clicked for them. I think almost immediately was, we have this shared passion. And, this was back in college, but I had my first serious boyfriend.
Yeah.
And I was telling an old friend of mine about him, and she kind of just was listening, and she goes, so what do you two have in common?
Oh.
And I was like, I was thinking, and I literally couldn't think of anything but like sex.
Oh yeah. There's
you know
that.
what I mean? But that's obviously not even close to being everything. And I feel that
it is important.
It's so important to have things in common. And that seems very obvious to some of these cast members on the show. They can see things a little bit more clearly in some ways. And Abby, and what was her boyfriend? David, I think. His name?
I can't remember, honestly, but
I think it's David.
Okay.
Their passion for the animal kingdom just linked them. And when she called him to see if he wanted to go on a second date, neurotypical no, as I'm taught, don't ever contact him first,
or say, oh, I had so much fun, or oh, I really want to do this again. Don't put yourself out there.
Wait for them to come to you, because you look more appealing if you look disinterested. So she calls him, and her mom is in the room watching, with excitement, like it's like her best friend or something, and they're both teenagers. It was so sweet.
It was.
And he agreed to the date, and he already had a whole plan. Do you want to come to this animal place on Friday? And the mother was like, yes. And said to the camera person, I'm calling the wedding planner. I'm so excited.
I know. Yes, I remember that. Yes, that was so sweet.
So sweet.
It was.
We all just want what's best for our children, and we want them to be happy. And
whether that's alone or partnered up, or
you don't need to be. You don't need to be. But if it's what they want, then that's really exciting. And for the longest time, like, I felt like that really wasn't what I wanted. Yeah. But it was just funny because like my mom's reaction really reminded me of Abby's mom, just with that like pure excitement, just wanting them to have that. So
Well, because love feels good. We all know, if we're lucky, we know what it feels like. It feels good. You want that for everyone you care about. You want them to be happy. So
the parents were adorable.
Yeah.
Another standout of that show to me was the behavioral therapist who kind of trained them on how to have good social etiquette.
Yeah, really cool. Mm-hmm.
She was incredible and on the spectrum herself, so she could really empathize and understand what their struggle was.
That shocked me. I mean, it just shocked me when she came and said, I'm autistic. I'm on the autism spectrum. I was like, wow, I never would have guessed that, Yeah.
It looks different on everybody.
It does.
It's so hard to watch at some points when they talk about how that label has deterred them from meeting people. There was a really cute young lady, Kaylin, who also worked in the field of helping other people with autism. She helped train service dogs. Super sweet, super funny and relatable, honestly, when she was talking about swiping on dating apps and she goes, oh, dead animal.
Yeah.
Nope.
I know. She was like, I don't want any hunters, nobody posing with their deer or whatever. Yeah. She knew what she wanted.
She did. Every
she was hilarious.
She was.
I loved her and her friend. Like, I was like, oh, everyone should have a best friend like that.
They were so sweet in how she said, well, I hope she finds love because I know that's what she wants. But if not, I'll keep her. It was really sweet.
Oh, yeah.
And she was so clear about what she wanted. And like, even on her speed dates was like, do you hunt? Do you fish? Like that was her. Yeah. That was her line. Yeah. But she had shared a really sad story about going on a date with a firefighter, and he was kind of pressing her about why she had a service dog, and she doesn't present as obviously as other people on the spectrum might. Right. She definitely can pass, I would say, pretty easily as neurotypical. And she said that when she fessed up to having autism, which is something she doesn't like to immediately discuss because of the stigma, he got up and left. And I mean, what an awful person.
Who would do that? Like literally the worst human. I mean, at least, have the courtesy of just having a nice dinner together or something as two people who obviously had some things in common if they decided to meet in the first place, but that label turned him off. Like, oh, that made me so mad and sad for her. But I'm glad that they didn't get, into like 3 dates or something. And then she learned what an asshole he was.
Right. It's a blessing because her time wasn't wasted, or at least as wasted as it would have been.
And her emotions weren't super invested. It wasn't like a crushing heartbreak,
Right. But that's still, I'm sure it was traumatizing for her. That's
totally.
Forget someone just walking out. I understand, if that's not what he wanted, if he couldn't handle that. Yeah. In his mind, even if he didn't even notice it in the first place, if he couldn't handle it, that's his problem and she's better off. But there's no reason to be unkind.
No, God, no. Horrible. And like he liked her enough to be like, this girl's really cool. We should meet in person. And I don't know, bad, but she was hilarious, but you said something. Yeah. I'm glad though. You're like, it presents differently for everyone. I'm so glad that this show exists because it's changing people's perception of autism and all of, what's neurotypical, what's different, or, whatever. Like it's changing people's perception. Like, I identify hard with a lot of the behaviors and thoughts and feelings that people on the show had. And I guess neurotypical, but it had me like, well, maybe I'm on the spectrum. Like, I think everyone's on a spectrum. I guess.
Yeah. No, I had that same thing. There were certain moments where I was like, this is pretty relatable. So it's like, I haven't been told otherwise. So I'm assuming that I am, but
but I love, it is a spectrum. It's not a black or white thing. And it kind of just is like, it boils down to like, everybody's just human. Everybody's different but the same at the same time. So I don't know. It just like, put things on a more even playing field and took away a lot of the stigma. I think that's what that show does. I think I just loved it.
I feel the same way, just showing that spectrum, because there were people that were probably further on the spectrum than others, and just seeing they're just like neurotypical people in that it doesn't define them. It's
right.
They have different qualities and dreams and personalities that completely set them apart from each other, that have nothing to do with being on the autism spectrum. They're just people. They're just a little bit atypical when it comes to their processing and communication.
Yeah. And I am too. So I'm like, I feel I could relate to a lot of them.
You know what I loved? When Subodh, that super sweet man, he was from an Indian family.
Yes. Okay. Yep. Yes.
Yeah.
He was so sweet. Yes.
So sweet and earnest. Another Californian, loves to cook, amazing at math. He hadn't been on a date, I think what he had said was in like 32 years, and he was 32 years old. And he was just so excited, so ready. And he found love. And there is this scene where he's on a date and they're flying a kite on the beach, and his girlfriend, or his later girlfriend, they were still dating at this point, she had told him how much she loved Mary Poppins and the whole soundtrack of Mary Poppins, and they start singing "Let's Go Fly a Kite." And then whoever was in the editing board is a genius, because then the music swells and they were like joined by an orchestra singing. I literally start crying.
I know. There's so many. It's just one of many beautiful moments that brought me to tears. So many heartwarming moments throughout this show. Every episode, there's like more than one in every episode. So if you binge it, you'll have to have Kleenexes nearby. But it was really beautiful. Another thing about Subodh that made me giggle a little bit on one of the dates is really cute. She was talking about television or something, shows that she watches, and he had said before that he wasn't into shows like that, and I like it. He was just like, you could see him getting a little anxious, so he just said, "Can we please not talk about this?" or something, just very direct. And she was like, "Oh yeah, okay." But I just thought that was cute, the directness. I so often want to say those exact words. Can we just not talk about this and like move on to something else? But my social, cues or whatever teach me that no, you can't do that. You got to just nod your head and smile. So I like that realness,
Yeah, and I think I might have seen that in Abby too, or one of the other cast members who said something very similar, that as soon as they couldn't relate to the subject being discussed anymore, can we change the topic? Very abrupt, and that would be considered rude by, typical conventional social standards, but
we're all thinking it. We just
like watching my internal dialogue before it's filtered.
Yes, totally. Yes. So this has been a great palate cleanser for us, this show. So if you guys, and you do obviously listen to true crime because you're watching us right now. If you love true crime, but you need a change of pace, you need something that's going to like warm your heart, restore your faith in humanity and love again, make you want to go try again, go on that date. Love on the Spectrum is definitely something to check out, don't you think, Chloe?
Oh my goodness, it was transformative for me. It melted the ice around my heart. Like, it was such a beautiful thing to watch.
My cold, dead heart.
literally how sad that this dating game had been so hurtful and discouraging. But it really just restored my faith that there are earnest people, and if we just say what's on our minds and in our hearts, then we'll be able to connect with people better, and there could be something out there. So I couldn't recommend it enough to our listeners, especially if you're like us and mostly are reading stories when it comes to romance about people getting murdered.
Exactly. Every romance has a little, blood mixed in there too. So it can be a downer, but and kind of inspired me to just be like, I'm just going to be more myself. And who I am would be like someone who would be like, you're really hot. I like you a lot. I'm just going to just go with it. If people don't like me, maybe I'm not for everyone. So it was inspiring.
We shouldn't have to dull ourselves or change ourselves to fit a certain mold that we think will be more likable to somebody else. What we should want is what this cast wanted, which was someone to love you for you. And if they don't like it, then good, because it wasn't supposed to work. You should be with someone that sees you for who you are, that you can be totally forthcoming and honest with, and have them accept and love you. And they didn't have that, I guess, hindrance of feeling the need to filter and shrink everything to make it more digestible for somebody else. It was really beautiful to watch.
It was. So check out Love on the Spectrum and listen to True Crime Twins with Chloe and Melina and True Crime IRL with Kelli.